Hello everyone, thanks for joining us this week on the Bison Basketball Show for our final show of January. I'm Brian Shawn. The North Dakota State men's basketball team has been on a little bit of a roller coaster ride so far in Summit League play. The Bison hitting the road to Fort Wayne this past Saturday, a place NDSU hasn't won in almost 5 years. The home team had won the last 8 regular season matchups between these two teams. Bison trying to change that, jumping out to an early lead off the miss. NDSU keeping it alive as Tyson Ward saves it. The pass to Dengu for the jam. Then NDSU goes on a 17-2 run midway through the first half. A.J. Jacobson setting up and burying the three-pointer. Jacobson 5 of 7 from outside the arc and scoring 21 points on the afternoon. Then Goo finding Ward backdoor on the baseline for the jam as NDSU leads by 11 on the road. Freshman Rocky Cruiser came off the bench to play 16 minutes, shooting 3 of 4 from the field and scoring 7 points, including this 3 late in the first half. Paul Miller would follow it up with a step-back three-pointer of his own as the shot clock winds down, his only triple of the game, but still dropped in 21 points. NDSU up 51-40 at half. In the second half, Fort Wayne rallies back behind the hot shooting of Bryson Scott. He scored a game-high 31 points, including 15 of 16 from the free throw line. The Bison would hang on to the lead as Miller comes up with the steal, throwing it ahead to Ward. He soars in for 2 on the lay-in. He scored 12 points off the bench. Chris Quayle made his first start for the Bison and hit a pair of three-pointers, including this one on the wing. NDSU holding the lead until 2.5 minutes to go in the game as Kaysen Harrell knocks down one of his 6 three-pointers. The Mastodons rally back to win it in the final minutes, 92-88, as the Bison dropped to 2-3 in Summit League play. NDSU shot 52% from the floor, but were outscored 23-11 at the free throw line. We now welcome in NDSU men's head basketball coach Dave Richman to chat about the Bison's game at Fort Wayne this past Saturday. And Dave, the home team has won the last 9 meetings in this series, and your group gave the Mastodons all they could handle. Just came down to 1 or 2 possessions there at the end.
Yeah, I didn't realize, Brian, that it went back that far, but I knew I hadn't won there. We hadn't won there since I'd been the head coach, and you know, our guys came out and was pleased with the resiliency that they came out after a tough loss against North Dakota on Tuesday, and we were really efficient offensively. But again, I thought we did some things to let them get comfortable offensively. They hit that 3 right at the buzzer and then at the end of the first half, and that just kind of carried over. And anytime you give up 51 on the road, on a neutral side at home, the chances are you're going to come out on the losing side, and unfortunately we did again.
Decided to just make a change, just to change it up by putting Chris Quayle, giving him his first start, a guy that's worked really hard to get on the floor. He's made the most of his opportunities and minutes, and that seemed to give you guys a little boost early.
Yeah, I think it's some things from a team standpoint that we needed to do, and certainly pleased with the way Chris has progressed. And Chris has always been a guy that knows how to play the game, and I think he's gotten more and more comfortable within our system. And you know, Chris is very instinctive defensively. He's got some great length and some athleticism as well. And I thought he responded to it. I thought he played well, made some big shots, defended for the most part pretty well, and encouraged to see how we can and he can build off that.
Well, what we've seen through the first 5 games of the league play so far is pretty much every game has come down to the last 2 or 3 possessions in the final 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, really any of the games could have gone either way. When you look at all 5 opponents you've played, I know you'd love to have more wins than losses, Dave, but you got to be encouraged at least that your guys are giving themselves an opportunity every night to get victories.
Yeah, I thought, again, no offense or no knock against Denver, but besides the Denver game, we've been in a compete mode for the most part, and our guys understand that going forward. They've had great resiliency. They've battled back after losses. They've battled back after being down in certain situations. Again, now it's time for us to maybe make a few tweaks and adjustments here or there, some minor things, some things that we can clean up maybe that we've done here or there, but just do those things just a little bit better, emphasize those things just a little bit more. As we talk about the different phases of the season, I think when you're in that non-conference, you're playing different types of teams. Now the Summit League, there's some different types of players and different types of styles, and we need to make sure that we're adjusting to fit those things accordingly and do what we need to do to put ourselves in a better position. The process is continuing to take care of itself, and at some point those results need to catch up to the process, and they will.
And you're going to see the last 2 opponents here with Omaha and Western Illinois that you haven't seen in the league so far, and then you're halfway through the season already. But an important homestand again because you got 5 of their last 7 games on the road.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, this week is already the halfway point of the Summit League, and as quick as the non-conference, it went, we're already halfway through the conference after this week. And but again, as important as those games are from a lot of standpoints, it's just important for us to continue the process of getting this group better. It's certainly been a difficult stretch, a tough stretch here the last 2-3 weeks. But that being said, we can't lose sight of ultimately where we need to be when we need to be there.
All right, Dave Richman here joining us on the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. Jeff Culhane, the radio voice of the NDSU men's basketball team, will join us after this timeout.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
Welcome back. We are joined now by the play-by-play voice on the radio side for North Dakota State men's basketball, Jeff Culhane. And Jeff, you were on the road this last weekend with the men out in Fort Wayne, coming off the loss against North Dakota. The Bison, a really good start in the first half, put a lot of points on the board. It was one of those games that just kind of came down to the bitter end.
Yeah, Brian, I thought it was NDSU's best offensive half, perhaps of the last 2 years since I've been here. They were phenomenal. Knocked down 8 threes in the first half of play. They were able to get into what they wanted to do offensively. And I think Fort Wayne's a team that allows you to do that. Fort Wayne's a basketball team that I think has some inconsistencies themselves with how they go about what they do on the defensive end of the floor. Paul Miller made some big-time shots. A.J. Jacobson got it going. The 2 seniors really led the way, shooting the basketball from the outside. And Chris Quayle made a few threes as well during that matchup. And great first half. In the second half, you knew Fort Wayne would make a run. They're that type of a team on the offensive end, and NDSU was up 83-79 with 3:50 to go, and it just one of those situations where Fort Wayne went on a run when you hated to see him go on it, and walked out of there with a W.
Now we're almost at the midway point. We got 2 more games at home this weekend before you're at the official midway point of the conference schedule. We've seen pretty much everybody in the league. What do you make of the Summit League so far, and where North Dakota State really fits into this puzzle?
Well, I think you've got two levels right now. I think you've got the first tier where South Dakota State and USD are at 1 and 2. I think the Jacks with Mike Dahm, David Jenkins Jr. has really emerged as one of the top players and newcomers in all of the Summit League. And I think USD, with the way they defend and get Matt Mooney going, shooting the basketball, I think those are the top 2 teams in the league. Quite honestly, after that, I think you could group everybody else in to one area and one section. I think North Dakota State is in that conversation. I think Fort Wayne is in that conversation. I think Oral Roberts, even though they've struggled a bit, is in that conversation as well. And I don't know if there's really a bottom tier. I think Western Illinois and Omaha, you look at those 2 teams on paper and say, well, you could probably put them down in that avenue, or even Denver, but those teams have beaten Fort Wayne. They've beaten NDSU. So I think you've got 1 and 2 with SDSU and USD. You draw the line in the sand there, and then after that, you've got the rest of the pack where I think all those teams have some questions, and we've got a lot of basketball to figure out those answers.
Real quickly, Jeff, Paul Miller, A.J. Jacobson, the 2 seniors, you've seen the urgency those 2 guys have played with over the last couple of weeks. It's important for them to keep up that level of play, but I think maybe the leadership is equally as important to try to keep this young group positive.
Well, it's a big week this week for NDSU, and it starts with Paul and A.J. And you're right. They've had that level of aggressiveness. They've had that sense of urgency, I feel like. Paul's going to go down as one of the all-time greats here. He's putting up huge numbers offensively. He carries this team right now when they need a bucket or need somebody to get him going. And I think A.J. has figured out now also, hey, this is it. I've got 6 weeks left or however much time to make a run and cement a legacy here at North Dakota State University. So those 2 guys are going to be big this week for NDSU with 2 very winnable home games at the Shield Center with Omaha and Western Illinois coming in Thursday and Saturday.
All right, Jeff, thanks a ton for the time.
You bet.
We'll see you down the road.
Sounds good.
All right, stay with us here in the Bison Basketball Show. Maren Walseth and the Bison women hosted Fort Wayne in their first home game in quite a while. We'll have the highlights of that and break it down after this. Welcome back. The NDSU women's basketball team had a full week to get ready for its first home game since early January. Hosting Fort Wayne at the Shield Center, the Bison still searching for their first conference win. NDSU made a change in the starting lineup with the goal of playing better defense, and it paid off. Sarah Jacobson with the steal early in the game. She throws the outlet pass to Marina Fernandez for the lay-in as the Bison grab the lead. Michelle Geislerova came into the game ranking second in the Summit League in three-point shooting and drops in a three to extend the lead to 9. 2 possessions later, Jacobson using the high screen and connecting on another triple. She scored 10 first-half points as NDSU takes a 21-14 lead after one quarter. The Bison also had 11 offensive rebounds in the game, 3 of them by freshman Macy Culhane. She goes back up and in for 2 and the foul. Then Jacobson maneuvering through traffic, dropping it off to her former high school teammate Emily Dietz for the lay-in. North Dakota State led 34-19 after the first half. In the second half, Riley Jacobson finding an open Sarah Jacobson on the wing for another open 3 as NDSU started to open up the game. The Bison continued to hound Fort Wayne defensively, forcing another steal. The Jacobsons hooking up again, this time Sarah finding Riley for the lay-in. Riley Jacobson had 16 second-half points. Kirsten Repp single-handedly kept the Dons in the game, hitting 7 three-pointers and scoring a game-high 23 points off the bench. But NDSU pulls away for good midway through the fourth quarter. Culhane to a cutting Taylor Thunstead for the lay-in. The Bison pick up their first Summit League victory of the season, 72-56. Fort Wayne shot just 30% from the field, while NDSU out-rebounded the Mastodons 40-27.
Our coaches all week put an emphasis on our urgency defensively, and I thought we were challenged and we rose to that occasion and we came and executed. There's one thing to practice it, there's another thing to apply it into a game situation, and I thought as a whole we did that and we got great results.
We've had the week off of games, so the whole week we've been working on our defense, and that was our challenge tonight, and we rose to the occasion and we played really good team defense.
We now welcome in Maren Walseth to chat about the Bison women's victory over Fort Wayne on Saturday. And first and foremost, Maren, it's got to feel good to get a win, but it's also got to feel good to play at home again. It had been a while after 3 really tough road games.
2 really big positives there. You're absolutely right. Being at home, the comforts of our own beds and our own gym, things that we're familiar with was great. And the energy and the effort that we put forth, it was great to get a victory.
Making a change in the starting lineup, shaking things up a little bit. I think one thing that you and I had discussed before was trying to improve defensively, saying our offensive numbers are there, our defensive numbers aren't. Inserting Riley Jacobson, Autumn Ogden into the lineup, a big lineup, essentially 4 forwards and a guard, but it worked.
Absolutely. Last week, with the bye week, we were able to just focus on ourselves for a couple of days, and that's where that challenge presented itself from the staff to the players of who's going to play with the intensity, the urgency, the defensive effort needed to be successful. And by the end of the week, those 5 rose to the occasion, and we went with that group.
Well, good news, bad news. This week you got to go back on the road for 2 games. The good news about it is 5 of your last 7 are at home, but getting through another tough road trip to Omaha and Western Illinois. 2 opponents you know very, very well in the league, and it starts with the Mavericks on Wednesday night. Talk about those 2 games.
It's a mental battle at this point. At the end of the conference season, you play half your games at home and half your games on the road. It's just the cycle and the sequence of those games. So we're excited to get back on the road, spend some more time together before coming back home. But certainly 2 opponents that we are familiar with. The first one in Omaha, and making sure that we have that same level of defensive urgency and defensive intensity. They like to change things up defensively, so us being able to execute offensively will be very important. And then going down to Western, they certainly have had some big wins already in this non-conference component of the season, and certainly that NCAA tournament experience last year. They're a tough team, still playing their crazy zone. So things for us to keep us sharp. There'll be some specific things that we work on in practice in preparation for both of those opponents. But at the end of the day, 2 more opportunities to continue to build and continue to grow.
All right. Should be 2 good tests. We'll talk to you about them next week.
Thank you.
All right. Maren Walseth here joining us in the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. We go one-on-one with one of the former Bison greats. That's Ben Woodside. That's next on the Bison Basketball Show. Welcome back. As North Dakota State basketball made the transition to Division I, 4 freshmen were tasked with the challenge. That included guard Ben Woodside. He came to Fargo with high expectations after setting school career records for points, assists, and steals, and left NDSU as the program's all-time leading scorer with over 2,300 career points. This week, we go one-on-one with the former Bison great.
You know, it's a mental battle at this point. At the end of the conference season, you play half your games at home and half your games on the road. It's just the cycle and the sequence of those games that we work on in practice in preparation for both of those opponents. But at the end of the day, 2 more opportunities to continue to build and continue to grow.
All right. Should be 2 good tests. We'll talk to you about them next week.
Thank you.
All right. Maren Walseth here joining us in the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. a special edition of One-on-One, joined by one of the most famous Bison alumni you'll find anywhere out there, Ben Woodside, the all-time league scorer in NDSU men's basketball history, kind enough to join us. And Ben, retiring from professional basketball after this year. You've had a ball in your hand for a long time until this year. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, from what I can remember, is about 5th grade was, I had a ball in my hand from 5th grade probably until 32 years old, pretty much every day. So a little bit different here, going a couple months, about 5 months without touching a basketball. So it's a little different, but at the same time, I've had plenty of years with the ball in my hand. So it's not too foreign to me yet.
Well, I got to put a ball in your hands and let you experience and take in this arena that you were promised when you came here as a freshman and never got a chance to play in this beautiful brand new facility. What's it like to get out here on the floor and just kind of take it all in?
Yeah, this is pretty incredible. I mean, obviously it's the same building, but you wouldn't even be able to recognize it from the outside. And what we played in was a lot different than obviously what they have going on here. But I think the guys here right now are obviously grateful for the facility that they have. I would definitely selfishly would have loved to have that opportunity to play in here, but it is cool standing here now, and it just shows how far NDSU has come with their athletics.
For you playing professionally as long as you did, do you still get the itch to play? Because like you said, you played for a long time.
Yeah, so in the summertime, so I retired February, March, and in the summertime, I was okay. I mean, my wife was going back to school, and she just graduated medical school. And for me now, in the summer, it was no problem. I didn't have an itch or anything. Fall time, no problem. I could watch football. But now that basketball season has started, I've really gotten the itch to play. And I joked around with my wife at home. I said, I'm going back overseas. I need to go back overseas and play. But I definitely have the itch. But it's nice that come out here and watch the Bison play, and that kind of satisfies the itch.
Let's talk about your career and talk about one of the things that made you special, Ben, and that was your hesitation move. I remember when you were playing, and you first got here, you weren't the biggest guy physically, but you put on a lot of weight. But the biggest thing you did do is you had this hesitation move that kind of distinguished you a little bit, and that's kind of what carried you even overseas a little bit. Just talk about how you were able to develop that.
Right. So if it's a hesitation move, and it's the first step. It's a quick first step, and Saul Phillips says, and Miles and Coach Richman, that it's a pretty quick first step, and that's kind of what allowed me to get to the hole with speed and got me to the free throw line a lot. So if you're playing defense on me, and I'm coming downhill at you, a lot of times, all my hesitation was simple. I'd come up to you, I'd give you a little eyebrow fake, and almost like I'm standing up, and then my quick first step, I'd go around you low at the hip, so it kind of looked like this. I don't want to hurt myself. I haven't played in a lot.
Don't want to hurt me either.
But if you're playing defense on me, you can play dummy D. If I'm coming at you, I'd go here, boom, and then I'm gone. So it's almost a little hesitation. I rise up, and then I explode by you with that quick first step. And then I'm in the paint, one dribble, and I'm finishing at the rim, and that's where I did a lot of damage, was that quick first step.
And beyond that, once you got in here, you got physically big enough to the point where you could hold off defenders with that offhand and just kind of keep them at lengths, at arm's length, just to get it over some of the bigger bodies.
So I would know if I got by you, or if you're riding my hip, say I even got a half a foot by you, and you're on my hip, I knew I had you beat because I was going to be strong enough to be able to take it in. So if you're playing defense on me, I got the hesitation and I'm going downhill, and say you're on my hip here, so you're still on my hip, I knew right here I'm already good because you're not going to be able to contest with me because I developed the strength and I could finish up over guys.
Right. Do you ever reminisce much, Ben, about your time here? It's been now 8-9 years since you played college basketball, since you hit the shot heard around the world that sent NDSU to the NCAA tournament.
Not too much, to be honest. I try to just live in the present and enjoy, what my wife and I got going on with my friends. The past is the past. It was an awesome run, and had a lot of great memories from college and overseas. The only time I really reminisce is if people would ask me stories. Hey, what's your best story overseas, or what was your best country, and stuff like that. That's when I'd kind of reminisce. But other than that, I don't talk too much about the glory days and what I used to do back when I was young and agile.
Like we were all young and a lot more agile than we were. Well, Ben, we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, and wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you around the arena here.
Awesome, sounds good.
All right, that is Ben Woodside, one-on-one. Woodside played 8 seasons professionally overseas, with his last coming in New Zealand before retiring last summer. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show as we get you ready for another busy weekend on the hardwood.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company, Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Proceed.
A fun weekend ahead of NDSU hoops here on Midco Sports Network. The Bison men back for another homestand, starting with Omaha on Thursday night at 7 p.m. before Western Illinois makes its way to Fargo for a matchup with the Herd on Saturday at 2 p.m. Both games can be seen on Midco Sports Network. We hope you will join us. The North Dakota State women will play Omaha tonight at 7 p.m. Then they will hit the road to Macomb, Illinois to take on Western Illinois on Saturday at 4:30. We'll recap all the action next week. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next time on the Bison Basketball Show.